waste nonprofit called EcoCycle. Allison, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Allison, the Policy and Outreach Manager with 5 Gyres, essentially your tech support behind TrashBlitz. And I know we're still waiting for maybe about 10 to 15 more folks. We had about 20 people RSVP'd. So we're just going to continue going around popcorning intros. And again, if you are off screen, feel welcome to stay off screen, or however you would like to participate. We welcome all degrees of participation. Popcorn, Madeline, have you gone yet?
All right, I'm Madeline. I am a partner of Into the Sea. And as they said, we put this TrashBlitz on. So thank you to everyone for participating. We're really excited to have you all here. I will popcorn to Mallory.
Hey everyone, I'm Mallory. I am interning at Inland Ocean Coalition, as well as partnering with Into the Sea, doing some mapping and graphical representations of the data that we collected. And I'm really excited to be here with everyone, so thank you. I think that's everyone, right? Dawn?
Hey guys, today my camera decided to stop working, so I am signing on to another computer to get my camera. But until then, you see this lovely Into the Sea logo. So I am Dawn, I'm with Into the Sea. We've been so fortunate to have this wonderful collaboration of primarily Inland Ocean, Into the Sea, EcoCycle, 5 Gyres, but really so many more organizations that were participated in this really fun event. And more so than anything, it's been really fun getting to know the community. Okay, who's Allison?
I actually already introduced myself, but let's why don't we?
Wow.
No problem. I'm going to popcorn over to Ms. Janet Manning, and would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us, how you participated in TrashBlitz or how you found out about it?
Found out about it through a friend, and I've heard Anna come and speak before. That's how I first heard about it, and I did a personal TrashBlitz and a group TrashBlitz, both collecting in Denver, Colorado.
Awesome, thank you.
Amazing. And let's see. Hey, Cameron, would you like to introduce yourself or tell us a little bit about how you participated with TrashBlitz and our Denver partners?
Sure. Hi, my name's Cameron. I got introduced to TrashBlitz because I am a volunteer with Ocean First Institute. And so we did a group collection along a creek site in Denver, and I also did the at-home audit. So it was pretty fun. I'm really keen to hear the results.
Cool. Anyone else want to jump in before we get started?
I would just like to note that we are planning on recording the presentation this evening, just so that way we can have like a record of our conversation. And if you would like a copy of it, please feel welcome to email the organizers. And we'll probably begin recording in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Allison. And thank you all for being here. It was pretty last minute, and I'm glad that we were able to join us. So thank you for that. Can everyone hear me okay?
Kind of weird.
You're echoing a little.
Is that better?
Yes.
Much better.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I asked. Thank you. And if there are other issues, just jump on in and let me know. So we are here, guys, because we TrashBlitzed Denver. So we're really excited to talk about what we found, the results, and also just our experience. So we're going to move on to our next slide.
Next slide.
Briefly, we've done some wonderful introductions, and fortunately, when it's a small group like this, we're able to kind of get to know each other a little bit better. And then we're going to discuss our cleanups, and Melissa from Inland Ocean is going to talk about the metrics that we found, then the home audits, and the actions that you can go do at your own home. So, it was really important to us that this wasn't just something kind of a one and done thing. It was really important to us that we reiterated and helped support the idea of really just continuing this practice. Hey, Debbie. Then we're going to just have an open discussion, kind of a Q&A. We have a 5 minutes assigned for a survey that we really look forward to getting results from as well. So on to the next one, please. Awesome. Like we said, we had some really incredible partners. You know, the bulk of the organization, or I'm sorry, the committee was really EcoCycle, Into the Sea, Inland, and Five Gyres. But all of these organizations that are shown here shared this opportunity with their network, with their constituents, and it allowed for TrashBlitz Denver to happen. So thank you for everyone. We'll go on to the next one. TrashBlitz Denver. It was supposed to be a week because of Denver's amazing weather. It got postponed to or extended to 2, and I'm glad it did. So it allowed people to do 2 separate home audits, or allowed people who maybe didn't choose a home audit the first time to do one the second week. But we had 124 people here in Denver participate. We had initially chosen 30 predetermined locations, and they were all selected. So that was amazing. We had 14 home audits and over 4,000 pieces of trash collected and audited. We'll move to the next one, please. I'd like to reintroduce Melissa from Inland Ocean, who is going to be discussing our graphs and sharing some numbers with you all.
Thanks, Dawn. Sorry, I accidentally clicked to the next slide, but I am going to now share with you guys the results for TrashBlitz Denver for our outdoor cleanups only. I do want to reiterate that this does not include the home audit data. We're going to look at that in a few minutes, but this is mainly what we were picking up along the road, along the streams, or any of the predetermined locations that you guys may have gone out to. So if for this graph and the future graphs, I just want to point out that on the x-axis, you're going to have the item type or the material type, and then the percent along your y-axis. So for our outdoor cleanups, we really saw the main item being collected as fragments. This really isn't much of a surprise because we do expect, as trash persists out in the environment, for it to break down and to become multiple smaller pieces of an original item that is no longer identifiable. After that, we found food wrappers coming in at about 14%, and then cigarette butts coming in at a very large percent of 12%. That was followed by your standard beverage bottles, water bottles, soda bottles, and then bottle caps and rings. After that, we found reading materials, other bottles. So this is any type of bottle excluding beverage bottles, straws, other bags, which is a little confusing to understand what that means, but it's pretty much any type of bag outside of your standard grocery bag, and then textiles. And when we break this down into the material types that we found, the main material type, over 50%, was plastic with an unknown number. So these were items where you couldn't pick it up and immediately tell it was expanded polystyrene, or it didn't have the resin code symbol to tell you if it was 1 through 6. And I think that's pretty true to what we see in plastic in this world. A lot of it does have that symbol, but a lot of it does not. And so it can be really hard to identify what type of plastic your plastic items are composed of. That was followed by paper, and then metal, and then the number 1 plastic that we were able to identify, which I guess isn't necessarily identifying either, is plastic number 7. So these are any plastics that are outside of your basic 1 through 6 plastic types, and these make up a lot of miscellaneous types of plastics that you use in your everyday life, like the plastic that would make up your kids' toys, or the plastic that goes into your cars. The number 5 top plastic we found was plastic number 6. So this is actually polystyrene, which is important because later Jasmin is going to talk to you about a bill that's going to be getting introduced soon in Colorado that involves polystyrene. Followed by that is plastic number 1. So this is polyethylene terephthalate. This is the type of plastic that makes up water bottles, soda bottles. So it's not a surprise that we found some of this due to beverage bottles being one of our top items collected. We then saw fabric, and then plastic number 5. So that's polypropylene, which is plastics that make up things such as yogurt containers. Then that was followed by glass, and lastly for our top 10, cardboard.
Hey Mel, just before you move on, we had a couple of comments about not being able to see the graphs in the presentation. I just wanted to make sure, is anyone else having trouble seeing the graphs?
I believe that one was not resolved.
What was that?
I said, I believe that problem is now resolved. It's
Okay.
just a matter of like whether you're on your phone or an iPad, just to switch through the screens to see the graph versus
Oh, okay.
the people in the chat.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to double check. Thank
No
you.
worries. Thank you, Mallory.
And Michelle, I'll share this information with you if you're still not able to see it. And if anyone else wants me to share it with them as well, let me know.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we are recording, like Allison mentioned, so we will be sharing this recording with all of you here tonight, along with the participants of TrashBlitz that weren't able to make it. So you can hopefully watch it on a larger screen if that's the issue, and see the graphs. But to continue, for our brands that were actually collected for our outdoor cleanups. So our top brands were Camel, McDonald's, and Marlboro, which again is not much of a surprise when looking at the data previous, which was cigarette butts coming in as our third item collected. We also saw a brand that was identified as NXT, which I personally actually had to look up. This is a heavyweight wrestling brand. So I'm not sure exactly if this was just clothing tags or bags that might have had this brand on it, but that came in as number 4. And then we had that followed by Corona. So when we go into our home audits, we had 14 people submit information for home audits. With the top items collected, we found something very similar to our outdoor cleanups, with food wrappers coming in at the very top at 17%. Again, we had other bottles being a large percentage of that, along with other bags. We also saw about 10% being takeout containers. And surprisingly, we actually had the category of fragment come in at the top 5, which is surprising because, again, I mentioned how in outdoor cleanups, it would be kind of expected to find this item a lot out in the environment, but in our home audits, I don't particularly know how that would be found as often, but if anyone here tonight did a home audit and put this as one of their items collected, I'd love to hear your experience with that. We also had non-food containers, lids, sachets, which are the little packets that you would get for your food that you get delivered that have ketchup or mayonnaise or soy sauce, followed by plastic film like saran wrap, and then coming in at the end of our top 10 was beverage bottles. And when we look at this in terms of what materials make up these items, again, we have this unknown plastic category being nearly 50% of what was recorded. Next is followed by metal, which when I get into our brands for home audits, it'll explain that a little more. And then it was paper, these plastic number 7s, again, coming in as the top identifiable plastic type that people found in their home audits. It was then cardboard, plastic number 1, which again are your beverage bottles, things that can actually be recycled, followed by plastic number 5, polypropylene, so your yogurt containers. And then we did see about 3% being polystyrene, which would be, I would imagine, those takeout containers that were recorded. And then a fair amount of glass and high density polyethylene or plastic number 2, which again are things such as milk jugs. So when we look at these top brands in our home audits, the actual number 1 brand was Izzy's sparkling juice. So this is sparkling water. So I think this is where a large portion of that metal material category came in. It was actually then followed by Ricola, which are the lozenges you use when you have sore throats. And we unexpectedly, just like NXT in our outdoor cleanups, had a fair amount of Joseph A. Bank brands recorded. And then as our 4th and 5th top brands, we had these really, well-known and expected brands of Starbucks and Hershey's. We're going to go into kind of a little bit more about what all this means and get your guys' feedback on what all of this means and what we can do about all of this information that we're sharing with you a little bit later. But for right now, I'm going to pass it over to Jasmin from EcoCycle to really get into some actions that you can take.
Thank you. So I'm Jasmin. I'm with a zero waste nonprofit called EcoCycle, and we'll be talking about some actions about what you can do given this data. Next, please. So one of the most important things to do is to talk to your legislative leaders and know your legislative leaders, because we can't just clean up our plastic waste. We can't just keep cleaning it up because it seems to never end. We actually have to stop making and using so much plastic. Colorado specifically needs policy to lift the ban on banning plastics. That's right. We currently have a law that says we can't ban plastic in Colorado. The second thing it would do is ban grocery store bags and add a fee on paper bags to incentivize reusable bags and the reuse culture. And the third thing would be to ban styrofoam containers, which are actually the most harmful chemical to human health. And we're getting food served in this like number 6 polystyrene styrofoam. I am happy to say that we do have some legislation this year called the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. It actually yet has to be introduced to the state level. We thought it would be introduced last month, but it wasn't. Right now, the gatekeeper is Speaker of the House, Alec Garnett. So if you live in Platt Park, Welsher, Wash Park, Rosedale, or know anyone in the Denver University area, we actually have a special call to action for the people living in his district, and I just put it in the chat, to reach out to Alec Garnett and say, hey, we care about plastic pollution, introduce the bill so we can start having discussions around it and what we want to keep or take out, or just the entire bill process. Next, please. I also included this resource for you. EcoCycle came up with a How to Quit Plastics workbook. It all starts with a trash audit. So how much, and is it essential, and are there alternatives, just to track your habits. And from there, you can go on and build a zero waste toolkit. And we even have zero waste recipes that you can use in the workbook as well. Next. And another thing you can do is become an eco leader. EcoCycle has an amazing network of people who I always say are not afraid to put their hand in a trash can to save an aluminum can, or they're the people who everyone asks, hey, is this recyclable or not? So basically, we just stay in communication, and there are thousands of eco leaders, which is really exciting. And you can get updates on state bills, have like one-to-one communications with us, and get to know the other eco leaders in your community, and attend 2.0 trainings. Our latest 2.0 training is on extended producer responsibility, which is where the manufacturers actually have to pay a fee or show a plan at the very least on how they're going to buy back the materials that they put forth in the world. So that's a very important step towards creating a circular economy here in Colorado. And we plans on introducing an extended producer responsibility bill in January 2022. Next. So just to recap, please support Colorado's Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. That if you don't live in Representative Garnett's district, which again is like Wash Park, Platt Park, DU area, you can send him a letter, or you can send your legislators a letter. I'll put that in the chat right now too. And what's neat about this is that you type in your address and it automatically finds who your representative and who your senator are. So it'll go directly to them. There's also a sign-on letter. It's a support letter, mainly led by CoPERG and other environmental groups. So that's a Google form that you can sign on to say that you support this initiative. Again, that's just put that in the chat. Reduce your plastic use. I gave that workbook idea, but there are many other things that you can do, like research your local zero waste shop or reuse everything as much as you can. You can even build your own zero waste toolkit by going to different thrift shops. There's a lot that we can do there too. And the third thing is to become an eco leader, stay in communication with EcoCycle. We always have something going on. Yeah, so thank you. I think that's it for my part.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Jasmine, for all of those great calls to action that we can make progress together. So now we're going to take 5 minutes to complete a survey. So I have now dropped that link in the chat. Basically, we would love to gather this information for our final report that we will be sending out after the summit. There are 4 basic questions. So we are looking for information on what you see as the major barriers to the solutions on plastic pollution in Denver, how COVID-19 impacted your experience with TrashBlitz, the experience of participating in TrashBlitz, how has that impacted your attitude or actions towards waste and pollution, and also what has come from your experience of TrashBlitz. So if everyone wants to take 5 minutes to answer these survey questions for us, and you're also welcome to take a bathroom break. We're going to set a specific 5 minutes, and then we'll come back after and have our discussion portion meeting.
I just want to check, is everyone able to find the link for the survey in the chat? This is really where we get your feedback from you guys on kind of what you see as the main solutions and barriers to plastic pollution in Colorado. So if everyone could take the 5 minutes really quick, we'd really appreciate it.
There's a couple links. Which one do I want?
Sorry, I had to get myself unmuted. You want the one that just got sent by Dawn at the very end that says survey, and it's a Google Docs form.
All right, I just submitted my survey.
Thanks, Jasmine. It's pretty cool. We get real-time results.
I'm trying to click on it and I'm not making it work. Sorry.
That's okay. You know what I could do is send you the messages and the questions and the answers in the chat here. And if you could just respond to those, I'll submit the survey for you if you're comfortable with that.
Okay. I can't it's not opening for me either. Those last two.
Bye, Sarah. Janet, I'll message you now.
Oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay.
Do you have access to it?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine. I'll message you now.
Okay.
If it's too complicated too, I think we can always just include it in a follow-up email. Yeah.
And we can even email the link now to Jan if that works, but I think Dawn can also complete it for you.
If you guys get a chance as you finish your surveys, if you want to just write in the chat, maybe putting a plus sign or exclamation mark or something, just so we can gauge how many people have been able to finish it and make sure we're not rushing you and giving enough time, that would be awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Jan and Mallory and Cameron and Mary and Madeline.
Janet, can you please confirm you see my chat?
I thought I replied to it. I sent a message.
Okay, great. I just saw it. Thank you.
Okay.
Emily, I think even though you didn't complete your home audit, a lot of the questions are kind of more general over just the barriers and solutions anyway. So if you want to take the survey, I don't think there's any objection against you not taking it just because you weren't able to complete your home audit.
So was there just that one question, Dawn?
No, I sent you the next one. There are going to be 4 total questions.
Okay. All right. Now, okay. All right.
I think we'll let Janet and Dawn kind of finish up their survey, but I think everyone else has finished. So Madeline, if you would like to move us forward to the discussion, we can go there.
Okay, great. All right, so for our discussion, we have 2 main questions that we were thinking about, but we'd love to hear any feedback or discussion points that you all have in mind as well. So 2 main questions: what do the results tell you that you've learned today? And what do you see as the solutions, whether that's regarding policy, individual actions, or something else? So if you have anything in mind that you would like to bring up, please put your name into the chat and we'll go kind of person by person that way. And if you agree with someone's point, you can put a plus sign in the chat. If you disagree, put a minus sign. And if you have a specific comment regarding a discussion point, you're welcome to put that in the chat as well to kind of keep the conversation going in the virtual sense as we are working through. So if anybody has a point to start, please feel free to put your name in the chat.
If anyone would like me to go back to the results slides, we can also do that as well. So just let me know. But yeah, Cameron, go for it.
Cool, thank you. So I guess the point that I have to make isn't necessarily about the results, but more towards the high proportion of fragments that we saw even in the at-home audit. And I just thought, because I did an at-home audit as well, and I thought I might provide some clarity on that, at least from my perspective. Even if you know the source of the plastic, or let's say you have a wrapper from a packet of potato chips. If you tear a corner off of that, in my mind, that becomes a separate fragment to the container or to the wrapper itself. Or if you, let's say you open up a bottle of juice and then there's that kind of press seal, the foil press seal that's on that, then that also becomes a separate fragment from that bottle. So that's where I see a high number of fragments even through the at-home audit. I just wanted to give you my perspective on that because you raised that question. And then I also had a general bit of feedback about my experience with the web app, because I was out doing a cleanup in a somewhat remote area, but still, plenty close to town. But the cell phone signal was a little bit dicey where I was, and I was literally putting in the last piece of trash, and then the app closed out on me. So I ended up I brought all the pieces of trash home with me and redid the audit at home. So that was just a bit of general feedback to the platform, the software people behind the scenes, to try to be able to avoid, if the app crashes, that you lose all of your data. If it could sync as live as you're doing it, then that would be really helpful.
I'm super happy to address it. Cameron, you are such a dedicated soul, and we are so grateful that, you know, you were motivated enough to bring your items home with you. Again, the app it's a work in progress, but essentially in your case, why it crashed was because you lost connection on your browser, and specifically the app is designed to track your specific latitude and longitudinal transecting coordinates, just to sync up with the random sampling plan. So again, your experience provides us crucial feedback to improving it, and that's actually a point that we're working on with the app developers as we speak, to just really improve user experience. So thank you so much for your dedication, and we really appreciate your patience and fortitude in reporting your results.
Yeah, no, don't worry. That's what we're here for.
I also had a lot of difficulty with the app and was with 2 other people, and we ended up doing exactly what Cameron did. We took everything home and counted it out. It was just the way it was organized didn't make sense to us, and it didn't really work in the field for us. And so we just did a manual audit. I mean, a manual collection of everything that we did.
So since we're on this point, what my group and I did is we printed out those physical sheets that came along in that working packet, and we were just tallying everything. We had one person, which is me actually, dedicated to tallying everything, and then everyone else in my group said, oh, I have one bottle, or I have one, miscellaneous, like 10 miscellaneous plastic fragments. And so, yeah, that sucks that the app crashed in some places, but I really like the way that we did it. It was a little bit painful to go in and like log everything in, though. It just took some time, but I think it worked out well.
We actually did it like you, Jasmine, and I think it was Allison who helped me do it from a manual. Was it Allison?
That's me. I entered your data.
That's what I thought. I thought it was you, Allison, because it was much easier for us as a group, because we had the sheet of paper, and it was really easy to find and do it that way. So we did it like that, and Allison did the hard work.
In full transparency, app is probably a maybe, it's a mobile friendly web page and portal and data collection. So, using the term app may be a little bit of a stretch, but essentially, yeah, no, we appreciate everyone's fortitude and, really powering through with the limitations of our TrashBlitz data collection site.
If I could just add to that real quick, this is Jess. The instructions appeared to indicate, or at least my reading of the instructions at one point appeared to indicate that we could collect the trash and then return to a central location to log it. And in fact, my mother and I went out and did this, and because we were both collecting, neither one of us wanted to touch our phone screens with hands that were picking up trash, and so we were wearing gloves and masks obviously the entire time, and we just we filled in the app entries in the back while standing over the trunk of my mom's car with this trash spread out on a tarp. So we didn't get exact geo coordinates, but we got like kind of in the neighborhood, as it were. But I would just say that if you guys really would like to have geotagged coordinates for each individual piece of trash, maybe clarify that in the instructions, because there was a reading of the instructions that kind of indicated that was that maybe the intent was to log all of the items at the end of collection, and that might have just been my misunderstanding, but it might need some clarification.
No, absolutely. You are correct. There are multiple ways that we are supporting folks in their collection opportunities. So some individuals prefer to take it home. Because you were assigned a specific transect, what we did is on the back end was connect your specifically tagged geocodes with your assigned transects. And if there was any variation in that, then we went ahead and just adjusted that on the back end.
So we would really love to kind of get your guys' opinions and thoughts on really the data that we got from TrashBlitz. So we'd love, maybe we can start with outdoor audits. I have the graph pulled up here of kind of the top items collected, and really see what you guys think are the things that we should be focusing on Colorado, maybe what we can do around them that would help mitigate what we're finding out in our city.
I did an outdoor, down by, I can't remember, it was kind of C470 area. And it was in a more neighborhood residential area, but on the main street, there was a McDonald's, I want to say it was, some fast food. And I would say probably a good 50% of what I collected was McDonald's trash. So just the fact that people were probably just, literally throwing it away as soon as they got it. I saw tons and tons of the food wrappers, straws, lids, and all that kind of stuff from the corresponding fast food joint.
So what would be your thought or the group's thought on solutions to, this problem of people going to McDonald's and buying a meal and then finishing their Sprite and throwing it out the window, in terms of changing behavior or in terms of legislation or anything like that? Really, we want to get just an overall group sense of really what people here on this call who saw the trash firsthand believe would help mitigate these trash items making it into the environment.
It's kind of the chicken and the egg situation, right? Which one comes first? Is it community action or is it policy work? And which one? Is there an echo, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, so I would just say, if you're not currently the speaker, please everyone just kindly mute yourself so that way we don't have any feedback. Thank you very much.
But yeah, I mean, I look forward to having this conversation with everyone because it's kind of that question we always end up asking ourselves, right? Which one takes priority?
I might jump in here. I don't know if I have a priority, whether it's education or policy, because both are very difficult and equally hard. But I guess it could come under policy if we encourage or incentivize these companies that are actually creating the trash, the plastics. If we create an incentivization for that to be biodegradable, and then essentially if the plastic, or if not the plastic, but if the trash gets disposed of incorrectly, then it does less harm either way, because educating the public and changing policy, they both take a long time, but changing materials can happen immediately.
Yeah, I actually, Jasmin, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. So as a policy person here, I don't think we need to incentivize companies like this to do that. I think we need to charge them for or just like make them be responsible for their own waste, whether that is, giving them like a slew of options like, okay, well, you can either have like compostable materials, even though that isn't 100% the solution too, because a lot of times most people don't have access to compost services. And when it goes to the landfill, it acts the same as any other organic material. It's going to create methane gas. And so sadly, disposable, regular old plastic stuff is better for the landfill because it doesn't create that methane gas. It just stays around forever. It's just not a good material when we talk about plastic, and that's really the main problem. Last year, we did have a law passed called the End Market Development Bill. It was introduced in the Senate, and it does 4 major things. The first one is create a recycling market development center. So really, what materials does Colorado have? What infrastructure do we already have? Where do we need to close the loops? A lot of people have complained that Colorado specifically, it's very hard to transport in and out of the state. It's been called a city in the middle of a desert, and transportation costs are high. So they're trying to find that equilibrium between the end market and the products or the materials that we have. The second is a producer responsibility literature review. So that's currently being done right now by CDPHE, which is the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And extended producer responsibility is really that whole premise of manufacturers are the ones that are responsible for the end of life of their products. So this includes paying for collection or paying for time for their workers to go around the premise and clean up the area and for the recycling of their materials. Colorado already has one EPR legislation, and that's on paint. Every time anyone buys paint, you already pay a couple cents automatically, and like most people don't even know it's there. And then that goes to a larger fund called Paint Care. And because of Paint Care, there are many different drop-off locations where you can go drop off your paint for free, and they will either mix all the paints together, make some crazy colors, or dispose of it sustainably, which, well, I don't want to, I got to talk to my Paint Care friend who works there to really figure out, okay, well, what do you do with gross dried paint, or what do you do with like oils and whatnot? But I think this is the main point, is we have all of these resources already, and it's just a matter of being aware of them and reaching out to them with questions. The third thing that the bill does is business personal property tax reimbursements. So in Colorado, our first closed loop is glass. So glass does not have to leave the state. In fact, well, okay, let me back up a little bit. Glass can go from your recycling center to Momentum Recycling, which is in Broomfield. Their whole job is to take the broken glass, wash it, dry it, and separate it by color. And then we have 2 bottling manufacturers that take in that glass, melt it, and make it into new bottles. The problem right now is that Momentum is actually running at 60% capacity. They can't get enough glass from Colorado because we don't have any laws that say, hey, every business or every apartment complex or every city has to have recycling services and be a part of this closed loop circular economy that we have here in Colorado. So they're offering tax reimbursements for different companies and organizations that can come into Colorado to help close some of the loops that we have. And the third thing is a statewide education campaign on recycling, which actually just started at the end of last month. I'm not sure if you've seen some commercials. They're supposed to air on, oh shoot, like the radio and TV. I'm not sure if they have billboards or not. But yeah, that is the end market development bill that passed last year. And I see a question on the chat. Jess is asking, would you mind sharing a link to the potential legislation around expanding Colorado recycling infrastructure? I'm quite interested. Yes, there's currently a lot of stakeholder meetings happening right now, and those are definitely open to the public, and you can go in and listen in. So we'll put those in the chat.
Also, I just wanted to bring up that Dawn does have a great question as well. So whenever you are comfortable sharing, feel free.
Hi, thanks, Mallory. Can you hear me? Oh, you can see me too. Great. Hi. So 2 things. One, just not a quick observation on the in the ranking of the biggest company names. I'm from Boulder, and I was shocked to see Izzy. And it just occurs to me that if you published these results and Izzy was identified as one of the biggest 5 polluters, I bet there'd be a huge change there. And so you might want to think about that. And that leads to my second observation and question is, is the end result of all this to make public policy changes, or is it to change behavior, both by consumers and by companies? And, I come at this, I found out about this project from the Inland Ocean Coalition, and that's a group I like because they tie kind of local behavior to broader global issues. And when I saw this project, I thought, perfect, that's exactly the kind of thing I want to get involved in. So the question I had, so that's kind of the basic question. And by having an event like this and sort of where there's a personal engagement and going out and actually seeing the pollution out there is a great tool for energizing people. But then it's like, are you going to point them to the legislative process where things are going to get bogged down and people, not everybody gets engaged and stays engaged on that, or do you want to actually change behavior? So that's my basic question.
Thanks, Dawn. So I'll take this at first, and if anyone wants to add on afterwards, feel free. But I think it's a large combination of both. So every time, you know, we do an event or we do something like this, or we even have meetings or give presentations, a large part of it is about, hey, you as a consumer, you can make choices, you can vote with your dollar, you can get a reusable water bottle, you can avoid these brands. But I think for too long, that has been the conversation, and all of the responsibility has been put on the consumers for taking care of all of this waste at the end of its life cycle. And these large corporations like McDonald's and Camel and Marlboro and the ones that we're seeing out there, they're not having to take any responsibility or put any effort into either changing their production or changing their collection after these items have been used. And I think we're trying to get people to understand that you definitely have a choice and you have a responsibility to make an informed decision on the products that you're using, but we can't just keep using things as we've been using them for so long, or change a few habits here or there and see this problem go away. It has to really start from a top-down kind of approach. And so that's where Jasmin really comes in and starts talking about, you know, extended producer responsibility, which is mostly what these brand audits are supposed to be used for, is for identifying brands that are these top polluters and coming back to them and saying, hey, look how much your brand is ending up in the environment. You need to do something about this somewhere along the line to help reduce the amount of pollution we're seeing coming from your company. So I agree, the legislative process is extremely frustrating. The bill that Jasmin talked about that we'll be introducing soon in Colorado, we actually already introduced in 3 separate bills last year. And because of COVID, they pretty much just got pushed aside. And now we're starting the process over again over the same topics. And we're having issues even just getting it introduced at this point. It's going to be introduced, but the timeline just keeps getting pushed back and back and back. And it's a long, drawn out process that, like you said, a lot of people, they can't hang on all of that time unless they're really invested. So it's really both directions that we're trying to go, because we want people to take personal responsibility, but we also realize that at the point that this problem is, it has to be larger than personal responsibility to fix it.
And I'll just I'll tack on to that, you know, putting the onus on the consumer has been a huge tactic of industry. When I say industry, I'm referring to like DART or ACC, American Chemistry Councils, those major producers of plastic. So think like America, like Keep America Beautiful is kind of like a shell front for a lot of plastic producers, where they, you know, they had the, you know, way back when they had like the Crying Indian campaign, where it was literally like, you know, this very kind of stereotypical like face of like a Native American chief, you know, crying about like, you know, plastic and pollution and litter. And that was meant to, you know, really, you know, put guilt and put onus on the consumer to like recycle and really kind of push this, you know, the idea that like you can, you know, reduce litter, you know, if you just recycle. And so, you know, really, we need to see industry change. And the only way that we're going to see that happen is, one, as Melissa and Jasmin have noted, you know, voting with your dollar by promoting brands that are promoting like reuse, like refill, reuse, and alternative material choices. And then also, you know, really trying to support legislative action when you can. And I agree, legislation is a bear. Sometimes, you know, in California alone, it took us 10 years to pass a bag ban. So we're completely with you there when it is a long haul, but it is a fight well worth pursuing and hanging on when you can, or, you know, tuning back in when there is, you know, legislative action happening.
Thanks for bringing up the slides of the top brands again. I appreciate that. I would be curious to see percentages for the brands that were found, like you guys have done for the different types of trash or plastics. Would that be included in the final report that's going to be sent out?
Allison, are we putting percentages in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Cameron, just as a, I'm not sure what the word is, to prepare you, I guess, when you look at the data that we collected, a very large majority was logged as no brand. Most of these top 5 brands were actually only between like 1% and 3% of what was recorded, which is partially why we didn't show the numbers, because it makes it look kind of insignificant, just because so much trash was collected that you couldn't identify where it came from. But those numbers will be in the report, as Allison mentioned, and you'll get that information there.
Sure, that's great. I fully understand that. And maybe one thing to consider would be to remove the unidentifiable brands from the data. That if you're going to show numbers for brands, you remove that from the data, so that then, you know, obviously it's a subset of the total.
I think you do want to see that in the total data though, because ultimately what you're learning by your results is that, these are pieces of plastic that have either escaped the waste stream, they've been in the environment a long time. Like it shows a different story of like litter breaking down into like microplastics and nanoplastics, and so you can identify and target different like plastic pollution issues and challenges in the region. But absolutely, we will have a breakdown of what the top brands were, and then also what the number of items are, so that way they can provide scale. Really good feedback though.
Yeah, and I think too, Allison, because it was so significant, I think it's important that we show that. Maybe, if it were a smaller number, but because it was the majority, I think it's really important that we show that.
And I will note too that actually like unidentified pieces of plastic are the majority of items that are logged. We work with Break Free from Plastic and the global brand audits. That's one of the top types of items in most of our volunteer cleanups and TrashBlitz efforts. Like the unidentifiable plastic, so showing that they have been out there in the environment for a while and they are breaking down in our environment and contributing to microplastics, macroplastics, nanoplastic pollution. And then we can further that research on how it's impacting our air quality, water quality through microplastic pollution and the urban watershed cycle. And it's a really telltale sign of where plastic pollution is in your area.
If I could just add to that, from my perspective, it is also a good way to argue for legislation not targeting specific companies, but legislation arguing for cleanup and responsibility overall, because instead of shaming a specific company, you're able to point to statistics that say overall how big of a problem this is, and other companies can't exactly point fingers at each other if it's generic and unnamed and anonymous.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think overall, because we're getting close to the end of the hour, overall, we had just 30 locations that we cleaned up, and we had over 4,000 pieces of trash logged. That is a lot of trash.
Yeah.
For 30 locations and a little over 100 people participating. And I think the overall message of that is that there is a lot of trash where it should not be. And there's not a lot being done about it, especially since we're seeing a lot of that trash, as Allison mentioned, persisting for a long time and breaking up into these fragments that we can't identify what material they came from, what item they came from, or what brand they are. So I just want to kind of thank everyone. If there's any last comments or questions, we can stay on for a few more minutes, but I did just want to thank everyone and give Dawn a chance to kind of give a final thank you as well for participating in TrashBlitz. This was the first one that we've put together, so we knew going into it, it was going to have some bumps and some things that just weren't perfect and didn't go exactly as planned, but as we've mentioned, we are doing another one in May in Austin, Texas, and we may bring it back to Denver again in the future and be able to compare what we see changed, fix a lot of issues that we know people ran into. And we just really appreciate all of your guys' dedication and your time here with us tonight, your feedback. And we hope to keep working with you guys and see you involved in a lot of these issues and problems that we've touched on tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys. You know, I really that we're a community, and there's something I think kind of beautiful about the fact that there have been these bumps in the road because we've all been able to learn together and really communicate. So this is definitely not the end of this conversation. Like we said, you know, we'll be sharing that report with you all soon. And we welcome questions and concerns and ideas even. And, you know, we just look forward to continuing this conversation and continuing our efforts together. So thank you all so much. Okay, guys. There are no
Thanks,
more
everyone.
questions. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.